Kevin, Charlie Mueller.
Very nice to meet you. I'm also
Oh, very good. Welcome and thank you. Yeah, retired in 2021. I know where they're down here. Yeah, great. But I ran the trust business management.
yeah.
Did a bunch of I do business development. I'm a little long. Oh, sure. And it's great to see what's happening in the city.
All right, we're about to start, please.
Count as you promise. Whoa. Okay. Welcome, everyone. My name is Charlie Mueller. I'm the board chair of the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, and I'm pleased to call to order the 62nd annual member meeting. It's truly a pleasure to be among such a committed group of people who in no small part are responsible for the success of the Conservancy. We are live streaming tonight, this event, for our virtual member audience, and I welcome and thank all of you who are attending this meeting online. And I want to start, before I get into a few more of my remarks, to thank our presenting sponsor this evening, the Greenleaf Trust Company. This is their first time as one of our sponsors, so please welcome Janine Stetson, who will come up and say a few words on behalf of Greenleaf.
Good evening. For more than 60 years, the Conservancy has met the challenges to protecting our water, land, and wildlife. As a native Neapolitan, the Conservancy has existed during my entire lifetime. Always in the background, showing up for our environment, the Conservancy is a place my children love to go for summer camp. This was a treasured experience in their childhood. I am also very thankful for the animal hospital because I am a magnet for injured animals. My friends tease me that I'm like Snow White, to which I respond, more like Ace Ventura, pet detective. Birds frequently show up in my path, and I have always been very grateful that the Von Arx Animal Hospital exists, and I have a place to bring them for care. The Conservancy was created out of necessity to protect the legacy of the unique environment of Southwest Florida for future generations. Greenleaf Trust was also founded on a need to secure legacy, but in this case for families. Our founders, Rhonda and Bill Johnston, experienced the shuffle of banking consolidations that occurred in the mid-90s, and they thought there must be a better way to manage wealth. They'd experienced firsthand how relationships and client service suffer when publicly traded, out-of-state institutions take over local banks. So they set out to build a privately held firm that put clients first, employees second, and shareholders last. One that was structured in such a way that it could never be bought, sold, merged, or acquired, and will continue in perpetuity. Greenleaf Trust was founded in 1998 in Kalamazoo, Michigan, as an independent trust company that lives its values. Since opening our doors, we have grown from a staff of 7 employees to now over 200 employees in 8 locations, entrusted with managing over $22 billion in assets. We attribute our success to our intentional culture, focused first and foremost on the client. Our autonomy ensures that our clients are at the center of everything we do. We are owned entirely by our founders, who have established in their own estate planning that our company will continue to be owned in perpetuity by their trusts. We can sit across the table from our valued clients and promise to their families that Greenleaf will continue to exist as it is now, managing the wealth of future generations. We maintain integrity, commitment, and accountability to our clients, our coworkers, and the communities we serve. Each client-centric team serves a limited number of families. When needed, additional talent is hired to ensure that we can deliver on our promise of high-touch quality service for every client, and we have results to validate these statements. We are proud of our 99% client retention rate and our 99% client satisfaction rate. We are committed to our continuous improvement. We were consistently hearing from our Michigan clients that we needed to open an office in Florida, which would give us the opportunity to have a presence in the state where many of our clients reside part-time. We listened, and we took on the formidable task of seeking a national charter, which was granted in January of 2025. Now able to operate as a national trust company, we opened our Naples office in August 2025. We are currently in temporary space in the Pelican Bay office building directly across from the Artis, while we build out our permanent space on the 4th floor of the same building. We invite all of you to stop by for a cup of coffee, or even better, if you'd like to join us at our upcoming events, please share your contact information with one of the Greenleaf employees here this evening. The Conservancy has been committed to helping citizens stay informed, assisting our government and business leaders with science-based research, and encouraging them to make growth decisions that keep our region's health, well-being, and sustainability in mind. The Conservancy, much like Greenleaf Trust, is not focused on next quarter's results. Neither organization has shareholders to report to, which allows us to each be focused on the next 25 years. The Conservancy seeks to protect the Southwest Florida environment from generation to generation, just like Greenleaf Trust seeks to provide financial security to Southwest Florida families from generation to generation. We are honored to partner with the Conservancy and sponsor the event this evening. Please don't forget my open invitation to come by the Greenleaf offices at Pelican Bay. Thank you again for joining us this evening and your commitment to the Southwest Florida environment.
Thank you, Janine. This is my last meeting as board chair, as my term is ending today. And Jim Nolte, where's Jim? There's Jim. He's our chair-elect, and I have no doubt that the Conservancy is in great hands, given his experience, his knowledge, and his passion for the environment, along with that of his wife, Laura. When I think about my time on the board and what has enabled an organization like the Conservancy to endure for 62 years and to have had the kind of impact that it's had, it comes down to, in my opinion, 5 distinct groups of people working together. The first is a strong and engaged board of directors. The board provides fiduciary oversight, strategic guidance, and acts as ambassadors for the mission. That combination matters. This board is one of the most active boards I've been a part of. Recently, we took a field trip with the policy team, as we often do throughout the year, to see firsthand the developments being built in Eastern Lee and Collier County. It made a significant impact on the entire board and helped us better understand the environmental challenges we face and the role that the Conservancy must play in meeting these challenges. The second group that's enabled the Conservancy's long-term success is its dedicated, passionate, and technically competent staff working under strong leadership. This year's Compass report, if you haven't seen it, is solid evidence of the effectiveness of our staff. Education nearly doubled its reach, educating more than 35,000 people about our environment and how to protect it. The team expanded programming in the Dalton Discovery Center and the John and Carol Walter Discovery Wing with an additional 11-foot python, new alligators, and a new terrapin turtle exhibit. In science, the 20-ton removal milestone of the ultra-destructive Burmese python was reached, which was recently featured in a National Geographic documentary. We had near-record nesting and hatchling season for the turtle program on Key Waden Island this year, since we started monitoring in 1983. And lead biologist Kathy Worley and her team monitored more than 8,000 mangrove trees, strengthening our coastal resiliency data. The Von Arx Wildlife Hospital took in nearly 3,500 patients. They're also working with the city of Naples as we build the new pier to find ways to mitigate the injuries that happen to pelicans from fishing there. Our policy team mobilized more than 8,000 people to reach out to their elected officials on key environmental issues and secured protection of 655 acres through the Rivergrass settlement. Policy also launched the nature-based solutions to help municipalities consider all the options when it comes to climate resiliency. The third group is our dedicated and active volunteers. Volunteers extend the reach and capacity of the staff in ways that simply could not be possible otherwise. Whether supporting education programs, assisting at events, contributing professional expertise, or touring our visitors on the electric boat rides down the Gordon River, volunteers amplify the Conservancy's impact and strengthen its connection to the community. We have an army of over 400 volunteers at the Conservancy. The fourth group is a loyal base of donors. You make it possible to fund the organization's work today while ensuring our future. Examples of this include responding to immediate needs, like when we had a bobcat that needed surgery, or long-term initiatives like the transformation of this campus into the John and Carol Walter Nature Experience. And Rob will have a lot more to talk about the exciting details of the $25 million grant from the Walter Family Foundation and what's to come in just a little bit. The fifth and final group is strong partnerships with other conservation organizations. The scope and complexity of our work is too great to do it alone. The organizations shown on this slide are just a few of the ones that we partner with. They complement our work, increase our capacity, and extend our reach across Southwest Florida. With these 5 stakeholder groups working together, we again earned 4-star ratings from Charity Navigator and multiple Community Choice Awards this past year, including Best Nonprofit, Best Attraction, Best Fundraiser for Magic Under the Mangroves, and Best Local Event for Naples. And we would not have had the impact in places like Pelican Bay, Key Waden Island, Hamilton Harbor, and Barefoot Beach. And I could go on and on here, but these landscapes are now integral to our community's character. But they would not be protected and they would not look and function like they do today if the Conservancy had not been there at critical moments to advocate, protect, and guide thoughtful stewardship. Their preservation has shaped our local communities for the better, environmentally and economically. The Conservancy's influence continues to grow. Community-driven recognition, national-level visibility for its science and wildlife work, and expanding public engagement all point to an organization that is trusted, relevant, and effective. And importantly, this momentum is being sustained with long-term vision, including the John and Carol Walter Nature Experience and the Now and Forever campaign, which will further strengthen the Conservancy's ability to protect our quality of life in Southwest Florida. The work is never finished. There is always more to do and always room to improve. We are not perfect, but the foundation is strong. With engaged leadership, talented staff, committed volunteers, generous supporters, and effective partners, the Conservancy is exceptionally well positioned to continue protecting the water, land, wildlife that define Southwest Florida. I want to close by thanking all of you for being an important part of that effort and for helping ensure this mission remains strong today and well into the future. And now I'm going to turn the podium over to Rob with some important information to share with you about big changes coming to the Conservancy's campus with the John and Carol Walter Nature Experience.
Thank you, Charlie. We work our board chairs to the final day of their term. They don't get no easy exit. He worked hard the first day and he's working hard the last day. I'm going to say a little bit more about that in a short amount of time here. Thank you for those insightful comments and do really reflect the breadth of what makes this organization such a great place to work and such an asset for our region. 1 year ago, almost to the day, we shared with all of you the momentous news of a $25 million grant commitment from the John and Carol Walter Family Foundation. And today I'm excited to share all the work that has already happened in those 365 days since that announcement. We didn't waste any time. We got to work right away. So I'm going to share some exciting updates about the John and Carol Walter Nature Experience, about the transformation, starting with, you're the first to see this, our new logo concept. The logo will come to symbolize and represent the on-site public guest experience. Yeah, I didn't do that. No hands, right? And how people are going to engage on-site through our dynamic, ever-changing exhibits that really bring the mission work to life. The John and Carol Walter Nature Experience is going to help visitors understand how protecting water, land, and wildlife directly supports their own quality of life and our way of life in Southwest Florida. So now, without further ado, I'll take that drum roll if it's still around. There it is. The new John and Carol Walter Nature Experience. Now, someone asked me, are the sunsets really that orange in Southwest Florida? And Michelle Arquette-Palermo, our Chief Programs Officer, who watches a lot of sunsets, took out her iPhone and said, yes, see, they're exactly that color. So if you're on the Gulf looking over at around 7 o'clock at night at the right time, actually, that is what you see, and it is magnificent. And it is designed to stand out, but you'll see the water element also, because we understand water is foundational to everything we do, but it's about our water, our land, our wildlife, and our future. And so let me just share a little bit about the branding and what you're going to see and hear about moving forward. The Conservancy, this logo, is really about what's distinctive in our own backyard. And it really represents this new experience is going to be a gateway to the Western Everglades, ecosystem unlike any other in the world. And we truly are a gateway, but also a protector of that ecosystem. The Conservancy of Southwest Florida and its well-established brand is going to remain unchanged. It is the umbrella organization for everything that we do and this new public experience. But this logo that we see here will clearly mark where the public experience begins their journey on site here at the Conservancy. And whereas visitors may drive by Goodlette Frank Road and see a sign that says Conservancy and Nature Center, they might think there's a few trails there or something's there, but I'm not quite sure what. I think if they drive by and they see this sign and they see the words Nature Experience, I think they're going to turn in. And that's what this is all about. We need to broaden our reach. We need to attract new audiences, and we need to stand out from a very, very busy set of ecotourism experiences. And so we're very, very excited. And Nature Experience really denotes the fact that we're going to be a destination, and this is the brand that reflects the attraction, but it's all in support of the Conservancy of Southwest Florida's mission. That's what people are going to learn about. By the time they leave this experience, they're going to want to become a volunteer, become a member, become an advocate, tell a friend, and they're going to want to come back because it's going to be very dynamic. So I'm going to share a little bit about how we're going to do that. And when the visitors arrive, they will be able to find the front door. How many times have visitors arrived and where's the entrance? Sometimes they're at the facilities building, sometimes they end up at the hospital. They're just very confused. So let me just walk you through a little bit. These are preliminary renderings, conceptual renderings, so the design will evolve. But what we're talking about is in front of this beautiful new welcome center is a new half-acre stormwater lake. Not only is it going to be beautiful, but it is going to demonstrate one of the critical principles that we're trying to showcase to people, which is that nature-based solutions matter for our community. And this lake is an example. It's going to have great ecological function, it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be representative of the Western Everglades. So all the landscaping around it will be the plants that you would see in the Western Everglades. And if we go to the next slide, the 7,000 square foot building that you see here is really going to be quite incredible. And I'm going to share a little bit more, but just go back a slide. I'm sorry, go back. It is going to house ticketing, admissions, orientation, but about 5,000 square feet in this building are going to be new exhibits and experiences talking about the history of the Conservancy, what Charlie just talked about. People don't know the story of Barefoot Beach. They have no idea that it was a handful of people, the founders of the Conservancy, that saved Rookery Bay. We need to be able to share these stories, and this space is a unique space that we're going to be able to share people, the accomplishments of the Conservancy, and get them impressed so that they're going to think about, maybe I should become part of this organization. And that's our great hope. But we'll also talk about the new challenges our community faces, the flooding issues, the impact from sea level rise, and we're going to talk about invasive species. And we're also, most importantly, going to talk about the solutions and how every visitor can be part of that solution. That's what this is really all about. It's about transforming the way people understand our mission. We're very excited about it. And on the next slide here, just another peek behind the scenes here. This is going to be a covered amphitheater. Our poor naturalists right now, where do they do their education programs with the kids? Well, if it's out on the deck and it's 92 degrees, it's a little hot out there. So the new amphitheater will have a covered roof. We'll seat about 70 people, and it's going to overlook that beautiful Allen Lagoon that you see that would just be over to the right here. So it's going to be a really nice addition. And now I'm going to get my mobile mic, and I'm going to take you on a tour of the campus. Okay, this is working. So remember, I used to be a school teacher, right? I warned you all about this. Okay, so with trusty help of my assistant here, Renee Stoll, she's going to help walk us through. But I want to orient you. First of all, we are in Eaton Conservation Hall, which is right here. That's where we are right now. Over to the far left is Goodlet Frank Road. So you can see Goodlet Frank Road over there, and down here is 14th Avenue North. So one of the major changes is, how the heck do I get in, right? That's one of the things John and Carol said. People need to understand, how do I arrive at this amazing nature experience? Well, we are going to have a collaborative relationship. We're going to expand our collaborative relationship with the Naples Zoo, and they're going to allow us to put signage where their entrances are. Now, that's Fleshman Boulevard, and very importantly, as you saw at 5 o'clock, Goodlet Frank is a little busy. There is a light there at Fleshman Boulevard, and so people coming from the north are going to be able to access this amazing new campus by accessing it through there, and then come down through the Greenway parking, access our connector, and come in on Smith Preserve Way into the beautiful new nature experience. Also, we're going to sort of stop the traffic coming in on 14th, because that's a residential community. There are school kids out there and playing and people walking their dogs. So we really are going to try and take the traffic and the pressure off of that street, which will make us very popular with the neighbors, I'm told, understandably. So you're going to come in the new front entrance, and where are things going to start changing? They're going to start right at that intersection, because you are going to be overlooking this beautiful vista of blue, of this gorgeous lake. And it's going to be framed with cypress trees, with the types of plants that you'd see in the Everglades. We're not just going to landscape it like a golf course. This is going to be inspired by the Western Everglades. And you're going to have a beautiful vista, and then you're going to look over the 7,000 square foot new visitor. You're going to be able to drive down, circular park in the parking garage, which will be a fully green parking garage with solar on top and green screened with native plants. So it's going to look great. And you're going to arrive at your destination. So then you're going to start the destination, as I mentioned, in the new Welcome Center. And then you're going to see all these wonderful exhibits. And then another major feature, this is the amphitheater that I showed you a rendering of a little earlier. You can see it's overlooking the water. Really nice way of taking advantage of that asset. This deck is going to be 40% bigger than the deck that we have now. Why? Because we want to do more things outside, right? This is a nature experience. We want to get people into nature. More trees coming up through the deck. So you can see a lot more native species, more shade, more trees, more opportunity for education out on the deck. We're going to maintain all the buildings that you see here on the deck. They stay and become part of the John and Carol Walter Nature Experience. The Von Arx Hospital, we're going to have ways of finally getting people to bring them down to that area back there. We really want them to understand that mission. So we're going to design a whole series of interpretive exhibits that are going to draw you down into a new exhibit zone that's in front of the hospital. And then we're also going to put more live animals in the enclosures of the Von Arx Wildlife Pavilion that's already out there. So that's all going to be part of this too. Another major feature here that's not public, but is an infrastructure investment we're going to make, we are going to replace and update all the wildlife enclosures behind the scenes, because they took quite a hammering after all the hurricanes. And as you can see, surrounded three sides by water. So a little bit highly influenced by the flooding concerns we have. So thanks to a $2.5 million commitment, we are going to be able to elevate and move and redesign so that the wildlife portion of our mission will also be able to move forward boldly into the future. We're also going to be expanding our trail network. So one of the really exciting things, I'm so excited about this, and so is everyone that works here. The Smith Preserve is the rarest form of habitat in Florida. It is scrub habitat, and it's a mix of different habitats, but the scrub is one of the primary habitats here. You cannot walk out there today. Why? Well, Sue Snyder could tell you, but the reason is you would be killing biodiversity as you walk. That's how sensitive it is. Of course, you all know that that's a very important preserve for gopher tortoises as well, which is a threatened species in the state of Florida. We are going to build almost a half-mile new boardwalk through the preserve so we can finally enjoy, access, and learn and educate people about this incredible biodiversity hotspot right in the middle of our urban area. So I think that's really exciting. And there's going to be these bump out areas for education and spaces, interpretive designs, and it'll loop into the existing trail systems. So finally, we'll have existing trail system that can loop around the entire nature experience, including the existing trails that already exist down here. So all in all, it's a comprehensive transformation that I think will get the public extremely excited. And another small, maybe not a drum roll, but we are going to break ground on this very soon. I'm going to tell you about that in a moment. But before I get into that, what are we going to do while we're building? Obviously, we're going to have to close for a few months. This is a massive undertaking. So the Conservancy leadership team has been working on this, and I just want to give you a quick update. While we are closed, which is basically going to be from May 1st till November or December, I mean, I can't predict everything, but we are going to really ramp up our off-site environmental education programming. So that means we're going to do a partnership with the Collier County Public Libraries. They're very excited about this, by the way. So we're going to be offering free educational programs for a wide variety of audiences at the libraries. So no matter where you are in Collier County, you'll be able to access there. Our mobile classroom is going to be ramping up activity in fairs and festivals and outreach. We're going to be doing new programs with Collier County Parks and Rec. So if you want to have access to environmental education, we are going to provide it. And I think it's a chance for us to try new things and to reach new audiences. So rather than a negative, we're turning it into a positive. Let's try some new program delivery options, and that's what we're going to do. The most important thing is we are going to be keeping all of our members and supporters connected. So make sure you stay tuned to your e-news, to our website, to our social media. We will be updating you on where the programs, how to access them, and it's going to be very, very exciting. We've also extended the membership renewals for all of our members. So if you're a member and you're coming up for member renewal, we're going to give you an extra 6 months for free because we just think that's the right thing to do. So there's a lot going on. So you're not going to see a thinning of environmental education at the Conservancy. You're going to really see an expansion even while we're building the new experience. So we're very, very excited on this. And the groundbreaking for all of this is going to take place on Earth Day. What could be better than that, right? So this is our Earth Day celebration on Saturday, April 18th. You're all invited. It'll be at 11 a.m. As you know, this is an award-winning festival that's free for all residents and visitors. And so we're expecting a couple thousand people, but this will be an extra special opportunity to take advantage of this celebration, this globally significant celebration. And let's break the ground. Let's get started because May 1st, that's when all the dirt starts moving around. So it's going to be very, very exciting. So that concludes that portion of the presentation, and we're going to turn it over to some of the business of the annual meeting. But before we do, I want to invite Jim Nolte here as our chair-elect and our vice chair currently. Jim, would you come on up for a second? And he's about to do a lot of work, so give him a round of applause. But we got something, Jim. I think you want to make some comments, and we want to do something a little special here. We're going to go off script for a moment, sort of off script, but I'm going to turn this over to Jim.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you all. So I've been asked to take, you know what, I'm going to take my glasses out just so I make sure I don't make a mistake here. I've been asked to take 2 minutes to say something nice about someone in this room, and I'm just not sure that's enough time, but I'm going to stick to the schedule. So this individual is an avid pilot as well as angler. Some would say a true outdoorsman, maybe even a Renaissance man. He brought his exceptional fishing skills to bear, winning this year's Red Snook tournament. Yeah. He not fixed. Right. So yeah, I'm not sure about that, but anyway. He and his wife are philanthropic leaders in our community, donating their time and their energy to a number of worthy causes, but they reserve their greatest passion in support of the Conservancy. as manifested in their volunteering at Clam Pass or cheering our major gala, Magic Under the Mangroves. Together, they set a great example for us all. This man is an exceptional leader. He's thoughtful, kind, and principled. He's kept this board vibrant with the addition of new directors while ensuring that all get the benefit of the deep knowledge of the more tenured members. He gave generously of his time in support of the board, its various committees, as well as to Rob and his management team. And perhaps most consequentially, he led the board to enthusiastically support moving forward with the John and Carol Walter Nature Experience in conjunction with our Now and Forever campaign. This is a transformational endeavor, as you just saw, to say the least. This will elevate the work that is done at the Conservancy while helping people understand the need to preserve this fragile ecosystem that we rely on. He's truly a prince among men and a joy to be around. And I hope these brief thoughts convey how much the board appreciates our outgoing chair, Charlie Mueller.
I can't top Jim's comments, but we've got a little something for you, Charlie. It's the crystal gavel. So if you hit it too hard, it may break. So I hope you'll accept this as a small testament of our deep, deep appreciation. I can't add much to what Jim said, but I can tell you the staff love this man and love what he has done because he has always been there for us. So Charlie, thank you. Don't go. Oh. Yes, Renee needs a photo. So everyone have a seat. Thank you for that. That was very kind. And Jim, Charlie, come into the light. Okay. Thank you. Congratulations, Charlie. Truly remarkable. Okay, you get to hear a little bit more from me, but not too much more. So I just want to thank Jim, John, Charlie for their diligence, their leadership. We really do have a working board of directors. This is not a group of people that meet 6 times a year and write checks and approve things. They actually get deeply involved. And it'd be easy to review the financials and make the assumption that sometimes we're not going where we need to. But I want to turn this over now for a very important set of presentations that form the business side of the meeting, which is a review of our very strong financials. And it's an honor, actually, to bring this gentleman, one of the very hardworking gentlemen of the board, up to make that presentation. That's John Walter. So he's been busy philanthropically, but he's also busy as the treasurer of the board. So John?
Okay. Thank you. I was wondering what was on this monitor, but now that I've seen an 8x10 of Charlie the whole time, now I know why it's there, right? This is what they call the treasurer's report. Kind of short, to the point, but I think the most important thing you can come away with is that I'm really pleased to share that you're in very strong financial health, well-founded, well-positioned, and positioned for the future. So I think all of you should walk away, if nothing else, forget all the numbers, just know that I think you're in good shape with good oversight overall. However, like most organizations, we also face challenges, and everybody's got challenges today in light of the environment that we operate in, including salaries, utilities, insurance, driven by inflationary pressures, and so forth. So we all have those issues, but I think we're well positioned. This fiscal year, our budget reflects success in the Now and Forever campaign, with $38.5 million allocated to long-term goals through the endowment and capital improvements. On the campaign side, it's a little bit, we're going to hear a little bit more from Rob, and he's got a lot to say about it, and I think it's really exciting where we are. But I think you can see these kind of numbers speak for themselves. If we have 47%, is that the next chart? Or yeah, okay. Where does it come from? 47% comes from contributions from people like yourself, from everybody in this room and everybody in the community that supports what we try to do. 33% comes from special events, 13% from grants, and 4% from membership and so forth. And now, another way to look at it, slice this pie a little bit, and they all are pies, I guess, as much as anything else, is expense by program services. This is how we allocate the expenses overall by programs. These are the 4 major programs we have, and this is the expense and how it's allocated and reallocated back in order to support what we try to do as much as anything else. Our 4 core areas are, as I indicated to you, it's education, which is the largest percent, 32%, policy at 20%, wildlife at 25%, and science at 22%. These hours from Encompass, as Charlie has mentioned to you, would be lost and without an army of incredible volunteers that we have. I think the volunteers are one of the most, everybody's touched on it. Charlie touched on it, Rob's touched on it, but without the volunteers and the passion for the community and what we're trying to accomplish, we couldn't do what we do. This is pretty impressive too. I mean, it speaks for itself in big type blue letters, but 27,000 hours have been from people volunteering. As I said, people like yourself, people willing to make the commitment and understand the same issues that we all face. And if you convert that, say, so what? That's volunteers. But that converts to like $1 million in, I'll call it EBITDA, or whatever you want to call it, profit for us, and value that comes back to you, back to the community, and back to the wildlife and land that we serve. So I think you're, as I said at the beginning, I'll say it at the very end, I think you're in we, not you, we are in very good financial shape. We pay a lot of attention to it. As I think Rob said, we don't have just a couple of meetings a year and call it a board. Everybody is actively involved, and I think that's the way it should be. So it's great to serve you in this way, and it's great to give a report where you're not making excuses. So it's really nice. And now you can turn off the picture of Charlie, okay? Thank you. Now, Jim, are you coming back up? Is Jim here? Okay. It's our next board chair. I told him what to do, and he didn't listen to me, so.
Thank you, John. I'm going to do the governance report. As some of you may know, we have a mandatory term limit for board service, up to 2 consecutive 4-year terms. However, after a 1-year pause, a board member may be once again nominated for election. Tonight, we're going to recognize 3 retiring board members, 2 of which, unfortunately, were unable to join us. And the first one is Stefan Bota. So Stefan is traveling overseas, and so we'll recognize him in his absence here. Stefan has been on the board for 8 years, and in that time has contributed greatly across multiple committees of the board, providing steady counsel to us over his extended term. Stefan served as Governance Committee Chair, was an early member of our Climate Change Task Force, and been consistent contributor to our Finance Committee. We thank Stefan for his leadership and his commitment. Mr. Barry Frank has been a passionate supporter of the Everglades and our native wildlife for decades. He and his wife, Susan, have been active participants at the Conservancy as leaders in the community and philanthropists of note. Barry and Susan were responsible for bringing the late, great Jane Goodall to speak at the Conservancy, something many of us will never forget. And Barry was active during his board term, in particular, on the Environmental Affairs Committee. Thank you, Barry, for your service. And finally, a man who probably requires no introduction, Nick Pennyman, has completed his 2nd full tour of duty on the board of directors. That means Nick has spent over 15 of the last 20 years on the board of the Conservancy. A remarkable tenure, to say the least. He served several of those years as campaign chair for the Conservancy's first major campaign, the $38 million Saving Southwest Florida effort. In addition, Nick acted as board chair for 3 years in his first term. He has, in fact, served diligently in numerous key leadership roles and remains highly active in all facets of our work, and we certainly hope that that continues for a long time. Nick also wrote the foundational authoritative history of the Conservancy's first 50 years. It's in the shop, by the way. If you haven't picked up a copy, it's there. It's called Nature's Steward. It's a highly recommended read, and if you haven't already done so, please do. Thank you, Nick, for your steady leadership, your pivotal role as our historian, and your passion for our mission. We're deeply indebted to you. Mr. Nick Penny.
Nick, would you come on up for a second and give him a real warm round? He's worked extremely hard. Now, we've got a beautiful... Thank you. Please sit. We have a beautiful eagle. Just want to show you, and I would really like to have Nick make a couple of remarks because I can tell you this is the award for Mr. Penniman and the other departing board members, so we hope you find a very special place. And I have to say, when I had the great privilege of accepting the offer to become president and CEO, I said, thank goodness Nick wrote the Drivers Manual for the president's office. It's the authoritative history. You cannot be president and CEO of this organization without understanding the history, and Nick has done an incredible job. And then he wrote the next 10 years, focusing on the science and many other books of note. But Nick, would you say a few words as you finish this incredible monumental run on the board?
I will.
And thank you.
Thank you, Rod. When Linda and I moved here 25 years ago, I had one goal in mind, and it was to be a board member of the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, because it was, in my opinion, one of the finest and strongest regional environmental organizations in America. And I think because of the superb staff we have, the excellent board and leadership we have, and the wonderful volunteers, that it is still one of the finest regional organizations in the United States of America. Thank you.
Remarkable. Okay, we're going to move things right along. And I just want to touch on the financials. This was the point I was going to make a little earlier, is that, you know, yes, we've raised a lot of money in the last year. And yes, that's a very good thing. But I just want to say that the pressure on the organization, as John mentioned, is immense. Our budget is estimated to go from $11 to $15 million. That's just the cost of running the Conservancy day to day in the next 5 years. And that's simply just from the cost of retaining great staff, insurance, and all the other expenses John touched on. But here's something to really take note. The Now and Forever campaign has a $45 million endowment goal, if we can just pull up that slide. And you know, if we are wildly successful, we raise the entire $45 million, that would still only fund 1/3 of our entire operating budget, because our budget is going to grow. It's not going to stay stagnant. So, in other words, if we achieve our campaign goal, 2/3 of the funding of the Conservancy will continue to come from members, supporters, Family Foundation, Magic Under the Mangrove attendees, Red Snook attendees, and grants. So we need you. That is the most important message. You see some large philanthropic commitments being made. A lot of these are going to capital and endowment, but that year annual giving is absolutely essential to be maintained. So thank you for staying engaged and giving us that support. It is the fuel that keeps this Conservancy moving. Now, yeah, thank you. And if you find the vision compelling, what we're involved in here, we have a wide list of naming opportunities for ways of helping to advance the mission, and consider your own philanthropic legacy. Whether it's big or small, it doesn't matter. Everyone can make a difference, from endowing an internship to funding core programs to funding part of this amazing new nature experience that we are building. It takes a village to achieve our goals, and we encourage you to reach out, learn more. We're happy to set up a one-on-one meeting if you want to learn. And I'd also like to take a moment to recognize the gentleman who stepped up to the plate, the batter's plate, when we said we need someone to chair this campaign to lead us into the largest thing that we've ever done, this $70 million effort. And I said, we need someone with passion, with enthusiasm, who's really going to lead us into this campaign with success. And we found that person in our board member and good friend, Tom Watkins. Tom, would you stand and be recognized for taking this on? Now, if you wish to reach Tom to discuss your campaign commitment, his personal cell phone is 239. No, I'm just kidding. But Tom is happy to talk to you. And thank you, Tom. One last quick little note. 3 years ago, we had a great ribbon cutting for another amazing new asset the Conservancy has. That's the Environmental Studies Dormitory. And it was just 3 years ago that we opened that, and it has been very well received. We can just go to that slide. And the many new interns that have had the pleasure of living in this beautiful new building. Now, if you saw the old building, you would realize how much better the new one really is. But I'd like to acknowledge the philanthropic leadership of Jeannie and Christopher Smith, and with a dozen or so other donors who funded this essential capital project. At the time, this is the single largest capital project we have ever done. It was over $9 million. And thank you for providing a home to the interns who will be the conservation leaders of the future. These are the folks that are going to take the mantle. They will be the future of the Nick Pennemans, of all the other people you've heard about and from tonight. We need to give them a pathway, and often that pathway starts at the Conservancy, and we're very proud of our interns and everything that's been standing for. So, they're remarkable. Now we are going to go into some fun parts of this event. We're going to talk about our Eagle Award. As you all know, this is a very important moment. So without further ado, we're going to cue up a video to tell you a little bit about the 2026 award winners. Take a look. The Eagle Award is the highest award we present annually, and so there's a great deal of consideration and thought put into this. So both John and Wayne have been the driving force behind Red Snook since the Conservancy agreed to take it over many years ago from the YMCA. And so Wayne in particular really jumped in early and gave us the confidence that we could do a fishing tournament. We had never done a catch-release fishing tournament before. And Wayne's huge expertise, passion as a fisherman, but also as a conservationist, was just a huge asset for the Conservancies.
Wayne's has great leadership, but his leadership comes from his passions. He is so dedicated and selfless. It's a no-brainer. It's just what he's going to do.
He makes it fun, and I want to participate. I want to contribute. And after 2 years on the committee, I want to, I'm already looking into how can I give back even more to the Conservancy, and I think that kind of speaks volumes on John and the type of person he is, and the experience he's kind of created for me personally being involved in the organization.
So John and Wayne are good friends, and when John got involved and quickly, got involved in Red Snook and then came onto the board, we immediately knew of his incredible talent, right? He is an architect in town, but he's very cool, calm, and collected. And so I saw the skills that he brought to the table. And when we were doing the first expansion of the Nature Center with the Dolphin Discovery Center and the new John Carroll Walter Discovery Wing, we immediately sort of approached John to see if he could help us. So, as you said, that meant that as our owner's rep, we trusted him to be our independent opinion to make sure we were doing things right.
John and Wayne are excellent conservationists and even better fishermen. And one memorable time was with John and Julie after the Red Snook auction, where we captured a 16-foot python together.
Their ability to work together as close friends with a matching passion for clean water, the environment as a whole, and fishing is fun to be around.
Susan Snyder has been volunteering with the Conservancy for over 26 years. She was previously awarded the Volunteer Award in 2018 for her outstanding impact as a volunteer.
Susan is a tremendous environmentalist at heart, but one of her big passions is bugs, insects, and other creepy crawlies.
Susan is such a unique person because she has this constant drive to keep learning, and I have not met that too much in many other people. It just seems to me that she's not bored by anything. Some people retire and they don't do a lot with their free time, but Susan keeps so busy. She just keeps going. She keeps herself so occupied, and she's always so involved with everything we have going on. It's very impressive.
The Eagle Award ultimately comes as a recommendation from all the former chairs of the board, and they review staff input and recommendations and choices, but they're the ones that actually get to choose the Eagle Award. And so I think the fact that these three individuals have been selected this year, I think all three of them represent the grassroots power and strength of the Conservancy. So I'm so pleased that the selection committee selected all three, because they're all deserving, and it's a great honor to recognize them.
We are delighted and honored to be able to recognize these three individuals tonight. And so we're going to call each one up individually, invite them to share a few remarks, and also present them with the Eagle Award. And so we're going to start a good friend, someone who's done so much great things for this Conservancy, as you heard. And we are in the middle of the largest construction project we've ever attempted in our history, so I'm sure glad he's sticking around. John Cook. John, would you come up and receive the Eagle Award? Thank you, John. Would you like to say a few things, or little things?
I'm a little speechless at the moment. I would just say that when you are recognized by an organization that you love so much, it's very, very special. Thank you.
John? I'm sure the photo people are coming.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you so much.
Stay up, Charlie. The next individual we are going to recognize as the 2026 Eagle Award is Wayne Mealand. And I have to say, Wayne is a force for good. We would never have gotten this Red Snow Catch and Release tournament. And the reason why we took it on was not primarily to raise money. That was great and important, but it was to break down the misperception between the conservation and the angling community. And Wayne was so committed to that. And as you heard in the video, it just would not have happened without his tremendous leadership, leading the Red Snow for over a decade, staying involved in every year we've done it, and also being a great board member and serving on EAC and doing so many other things. So Wayne, please come forward to receive your Eagle Award for 2026. Thank you. If you'd like to say a few words, then we'll do the photo.
Well, I just want to say thank you. It's truly an honor. I think this is, of all the awards you could win in Florida, really, this is the premier. There's a lot of goofy, silly awards, but this one really is meaningful. So,
Okay, Wayne, thanks. And these photos, by the way, are taken by a volunteer, Dennis Goodman, who started out as an insurance guy who loved to take photography. Now Dennis is a full-time photographer with a huge studio in town, and we're very grateful to Dennis for providing these beautiful images of the eagle that was taken here in Southwest Florida. Now, last but certainly not least, we want to recognize Sue Snyder. And I've had the great honor of working here for 27 years, and I think for at least a quarter century, her and her husband Jim have been here as a steady, constant force and presence at the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. And Sue has done so much to advance her understanding of the biodiversity in our own backyard here, that Christopher B. Smith Preserve. To think that was going to get bulldozed and turned into affordable housing or a strip mall or whatever the Collier County Commission had in mind. And thank goodness for the wisdom of Dorothy Blair and Jeannie and Christopher Smith, who stepped up and said, you can't let that happen. And they put the money in to buy the preserve and stop it from being destroyed. And now we're going to build a beautiful boardwalk to make it even better. But Sue has studied that preserve. In fact, she has documented, she's going to tell me, but it's well over 1,000, and maybe a couple of thousand of different species of life in that preserve, in that 7.5, 8 acres out there. I often see her under a microscope. That picture wasn't staged, folks. That's where she spends hours and hours. And with people like Jeff Schmidt, Melinda, and our science team, she's out there leading our horticulture group for many years, maintain that preserve so our facilities guys can focus on other things. And she is so committed to the Conservancy. She's a former master educator, author of educational books, and I have the most tremendous respect for her, and I'm thrilled, Sue, that you are receiving this award. So you please come forward and receive the Eagle Award. Would you like to say a few words and we'll take the picture? There we go.
Well, I'm overwhelmed. When I got the letter, I told Rob I kind of cried. I don't understand being singled out like that because I represent so many people. But in the 26 years that my husband and I have been coming, we formed such a bond with the staff and the volunteers, their family. And I had more written. I actually got a note today from Renee saying, don't go over 2 minutes, and I wasn't planning on saying anything. Then I wrote something up, and the other two guys said nothing. Well, they said something, but not very long. You guys were so brief. You said a lot in a few words, and I've got all this to say. But I just want to share some of the things that I've had the opportunity to do. I mean, I came after teaching for 30 years and came to a place that I wasn't familiar with. My parents lived here in the winter. And I wanted to find something where I could learn, I could teach, and I could do science. What a perfect spot. I went to the first training, and I don't know whether you remember Joe Cox and David Graff in the museum. I became involved with them. Became a docent, a day leader. I've parked cars with my husband, ushered for speaker events. I've had some wonderful volunteers, and I have their names here, but I don't want to spend more time than I should. But some of my very best friends are here, and the staff members are wonderful. And just a brief note about the preserve. Ian asked me to do this thing. My volunteer group planted those plants that are out there that are now overwhelming, and we're having to trim back in 2005. And we were doing all of that. And one day Ian said, Susan, I'd really like it if you could do a survey of the other things we're protecting besides the tortoises. And I went, oh my goodness. Biology was my major, but I was majoring at Miami University, and I graduated in 1968, not 70, 68. So I started learning and teaching myself, and then I thought, what am I going to do with this information? So I put it on a website, and there are 1,300 species on there right now, and I'm getting help from all around the world. And hopefully, and I understand that policies have been using this to show that protecting just a small area makes such a big difference in biodiversity. So I've learned so much, and I hope I've taught some people, and that's my legacy. Thank you.
By the way, I think one of the species is so original that it's going to be named after Sue, that she discovered out there. Yes, it's in process, so keep your fingers crossed. Legacy, absolutely. I just want you to know, remember Charlie said something about we make mistakes and we're not perfect? I'm your living example tonight because we were actually supposed to elect our board of directors and do a few things, but we're going to get to that. But before we do, so you can't leave yet, and that's going to be very brief, but it's very important, so mea culpa. I wanted to share with you, and I'm not going to do the talking here, but I wanted to tee up something that's so vitally important that everyone in this room should feel very proud of, and that is the upcoming ribbon cutting for the completion of the Picayune Strand restoration. So I've invited Kathy Worley and Nick Penniman. Nick's going to kick us off. I want you all to understand what your support year after year really means and the impact it makes. So Nick, would you kick us off with a little bit of background on this incredible part of the Western Everglades?
working. Nope, not working. Yep, this is not working? Yep, it is. It's all right. So let me show you here what nature provided us to find in Southwest Florida when the people moved here. Unfortunately, I don't have the pointer on it right now, but if you look from Lake Okeechobee all the way down, that is the River of Grass. The water moves directly south. To the west of that is a line which is actually a ledge called the Shaha-Legi Ledge. It's geological formation. It's not perfect. The water smooths, come back and forth from it. But if it goes to the west, even further, you see the cross-hatching, and that's cypress. Those forests were heavily forested beginning in 1913 and then fully denuded by 1954. In that area is the Picayune Strand. So Cape Coral was the first really large development in Southwest Florida. And in 1957, the Rosen brothers from my hometown of Baltimore doubled it down. They owned Cape Coral, and they bought 112,000 acres from the Turner Lumber Company. They paid $6.3 million. Interestingly enough, most of the money came from the Pritzker family from Chicago in 1957. And basically, it was a mixed swamp and pine scrub forest, fresh water. It was 173 miles were cleared by these machines that you see knocking down trees and tearing up the environment. This is what they got. Basically, it's a refrigerator tray. If you look at it in northern states, 70,000 acres, and in the southern states, 42,000 acres. There were 813 miles of roads, mainly dirt, and 183 miles draining into Rookery Bay, which would very quickly become a large problem. So the Rosen brothers were smart. They offered free travel and lodging in Cape Coral, which was developed at this time with amenities and with houses, with commercial areas, and flew buyers over the estates before lavish and sales dinners where they had in Cape Coral a great big bell. And they would say, now we got lot 454. It just went for sale. 454 just went bang. And it became one of the environments of auctions where people became very, very excited. And in the process, they sold between 30 and 40,000 lots, 17,000 of which were in what becomes later the Picayune Strand. But here are the problems. No electricity, and areas were flooded. It became one of the great landing strips for drug dealers. They would fly propeller planes in under the, if you remember the balloons that were on the east and west coast, below the radar. They wouldn't really stop. They would run along the runway and tip, touch, and go, dump the drugs out, they'd be picked up, and off they would go. But the most important thing that was happening was the collapse of Rookery Bay. Because of all the fresh water coming down the canals, Rookery Bay was becoming seriously impaired. In 1968, a grand jury began an investigation into the sales practices of the Rosen brothers. Leonard Rosen retired. He was a very loud and very profane man, one of those people who everything he believed always came true, but it didn't, and this investigation scared him enough to retire. By 1973, the deceptive hail practices, Gulf American Corporation, which was the Rosen's company, sold and became GAC Corporation from Miami. It was the fourth largest high market value in Florida and also the largest landowner at the time in the state of Florida. But like most developers down here at the time, 2 years later, they had to file bankruptcy. And then in 1984, Governor Bob Graham announced the Save Our Everglades plan. And the buyout began, but basically it was at a crawl, at a very, very slow rate. And now I'm going to turn it over to my good friend and marvelous scientist, Kathy Worley, to pick you up from there.
Well, thank you, Nick, for teeing up the stage for me. And now we're on the year 1986. So how are we going to fix this mess? We've already figured out what we need to do. There's been a number of studies that were done, including one by the Conservancy, that basically all said the same thing. There were disastrous effects, not only on the wetlands within the blocks, but also on the adjacent wetlands and downstream estuaries. Imagine those canals, those blue lines. Imagine them like a big drain. And what it's doing is it's gathering all the water, not only from what is now Picayune, but from the conservation areas on either side of it. It drew all that water in, and then it shunted it into Faka Union and spewed it out like a fire hose down in Port of the Isles. You may remember, you need to remember that historically, water is going to flow down through sheet flow. It's going to slowly percolate through the land, cleaning it up as it goes, and following the natural gradient of the topography. But the roads and the canals changed all that. And the concerns became so great that it resulted in adding Southern Golden Gate Estates to the Carl State Land Acquisition List. And the Conservancy staff were a big part of this. We were a big part of the push to get those lands into the Carl program, and also for the initial push in restoring this area. Now, once the state had the money to acquire the land, they were confronted by a really daunting task: buying back the land from 17,000 landowners that were hoodwinked into buying wetlands. And these people were from all over the world. Now, before any offers could be made, appraisals had to be made, ownership had to be verified, and the titles had to be checked, etc. And remember, this is before computers. We didn't know what the word email and internet meant, and the difficulty became in the acquisition because of the fact you've got, up in Tallahassee is where the State Land Acquisition Office is. 400 miles to the south is where Collier County is. Now, up in Tallahassee is where they have to make all the offers. But in Collier County is where all the title information is. So what they found was that initially the state found that initially the acquisition project was just so slow that it's estimated that it would take about 10 years to complete the first round of offers to people. Now, in 1991, the Conservancy came up with a solution, and this was to expedite the process. And this was accomplished by Conservancy staff and a whole cadre of volunteers, all of whom spent hours and hours at the property appraiser's office, obtaining, processing, proofreading the documents, and typing up the results and sending them by mail to the Division of State Lands in Tallahassee, so that then offers could be made to the landowners. It took 2.5 years to complete the initial round of offers. And instead of the original 10 years that was originally projected, we made that much of an impact. And that's all thanks in part to typewriters. In 2006, the state had acquired over 15,000 acres, and Southern Golden Gate Estates was renamed Picayune Strand State Forest. So finally, we're getting to the restoration. So basically, it's all about getting the hydrology right, or basically undoing what the Rosens did by removing the roads and plugging the canals. In 2006, the first and smallest of the canals, the Prairie Canal, was plugged. So the Army Corps, who originally dug out these canals decades before, went in and filled the canals with the same fill they dug out decades before. They've come full circle here. And just so you know, this is 2016, 10 years later. This is Prairie Canal. It's beautiful. Now, before any more restoration could take place, we had to build the Army Corps had to put in 3 pump stations. And this was to prevent northern Golden Gate estates from getting flooded. So the water basically, it enters in at the canals from up north, and they go into the pump station, and then they go out through these spreader swales is where the water comes out, and that's where it goes into the Picayune Strand. And these spreader swales, they slow the water down, and they spread it out a bit. And this is sort of trying to mimic that natural sheet flow. In 2014, the pump station at Merritt Canal was completed, and Merritt Canal was plugged. Let's see if I can get this video to work. Nope. A little help here, please. Nope. Well, maybe we won't have a video. This is not good. Just go for it. Continue. Okay. Well, what you were going to see was not that, but a video of in 2016, what Merritt Canal looked later. And what you would see is a bunch of grasses coming in, a bunch of wetlands where the canal was. And additionally, since the spreader swale, it became a shallow wetland. And it brought in all these birds, and it's now a bird watcher's hotspot. So basically then all the pump stations were completed by 2018, but there's still some work to do. Now, the plugging of Vaca Union and Miller Canals, along with the final road removal, could not happen until protection measures were in place to protect the agricultural and urban areas that were southwest of Picayune. And so basically what they did, the Corps did, was they put in a protection feature, which is basically a berm within a levee design with a large water conveyance canal that you can see there in the middle. So the Corps is plugging canals in Picayune and building canals down here. And the water collects all the canals, and it is shunted into a culvert under 41 and goes into Collier Seminole State Park as a point source. Now, so what's the problem? Well, there's a couple, but I'm just going to mention one. And that is the protection feature design puts a point source of nutrient-rich water from the ag fields and the urban areas directly into Collier Seminole State Park, which is an outstanding Florida water body. That means you cannot degrade the water quality below baseline. And therein lies the sticky wicket. You don't want to restore one area at the expense of polluting and harming another area. Now, while we do want to move the water south, we don't want to do it all at once, and we certainly don't want to put nutrient-rich water into the historic flowways. Nor do we want to put this water as a point source into areas it does not belong, into historic pine flatwoods that were there before the Picayune project was, or rather the blocks were made. And also rare rocklands, they're all in Collier Seminole State Park. Can someone try to do the video? You know, there's solutions to all of these problems, but they take time, and time's run out. In 2025, the final canal Miller was plugged and the last road was degraded. Oops. I'm just a technical magnet for problems, I swear. Anyway, so how do you tell if the restoration is working? Well, you need to look for changes in the hydrology, the vegetation, and the wildlife. And this is where the Conservancy played another pivotal role. We did a lot of the pre-restoration biological assessments that began in 1986 and continued through 2017 in an effort to make a baseline of many, many biological indicators that could be used later to determine if the restoration is working. And we're still there today. We're working to tackle the invasive species problem. More recently, we have expanded our python research and removal program into Picayune. And our python team right now has 12 scout snakes on the ground. Locating those females, they've already removed over 4,000 pounds of python in Picayune. Nature will find a way. It's all about the hydrology. You mimic the natural historic hydraulic flow with the right amount of water, the right time of year, and you push that clean water south. And the vegetation and the wildlife that are adapted to these conditions are going to come. Look at the transition over time in Prairie Canal. Now, I would hope that you can appreciate that Southern Golden Gate Estates is a textbook case when it comes to understanding the ultimate cost to society of uncontrolled growth and rampant land speculation that occurred and plagued Florida during the 20th century and is still here today. There's an enormous cost for restoration, removing the roads, filling the canals, installing the pump stations, and so on and so forth. But in the end, it's worth it. It really is. In addition to protecting the ecosystem, it's important to remember that we're also protecting ourselves in the process. And could someone start this video, please, if it will work? The beauty of the restoration project is that it's all about the ecosystem. And that just makes me smile because I feel good about having just a little hand in making this possible. It took a huge effort and many people to come together to make this happen. And sadly, some of the original cheerleaders for this project are not around anymore. But they had the foresight to understand the importance of restoration and the persistence to keep trying to push this through. And the light is finally coming to the end of the tunnel here. And as the blocks, as I used to call Southern Golden Gate Estates, they're changing back into a wetland paradise. We're still working to resolve the remaining problems associated with this project. The Conservancy has not given up because that's what we do. And that's what you all enable us to do. So thank you.
From the largest subdivision in the world to the completion of the first Everglades restoration project. And by the way, we've been invited to officially speak by the Army Corps of Engineers in 2 weeks at this ribbon cutting event. So it's a huge win. Now, I think to stay on course, we have an election to do. Is that correct, Renee? And team, so what we'd like to do is we are going to elect our incoming board members. So I'd like to invite Jim back up, and he's going to just quickly do the governance on behalf of Nancy's committee. We are going to elect the new board members, and we are going to also elect the returning board members who are going to be doing a second term. So Jim, you want to tee us up?
Yep, thank you, Rob. Try to keep this relatively quick without doing any disservice to the new members. Mr. Ken Cole and his wife Elaine have been longtime supporters of the Conservancy. Ken has a long history of high-level government relations work and lobbying in Washington, D.C. He currently serves on the Conservancy's Environmental Affairs Committee. He's passionate about protecting our natural systems here in Southwest Florida. So that's our first nominee. Ms. Robin McClanathan. Robin and her husband, Joe, have been active supporters of the Conservancy for a number of years. Robin served diligently on Magic Under the Mangroves Committee. She's active in our community at both the Naples Yacht Club as well as Port Royal Club, and she has a strong science background and is looking forward to supporting our science-backed efforts on the board. Mr. Rick Phillips. Rick and his wife, Lori, are longtime residents in Naples. Rick has served on the Environmental Affairs Committee as well for over 15 years and has been active in the city of Naples as a community advocate. Rick brings a broad range of professional skills to his new role on the board, and Mr. Dave Tolmie. Dave and his wife, Tracy, are relatively new residents to Naples. However, they've visited for many years. Dave has significant professional investment experience and has extensive nonprofit experience at the board level, including at the Chicago Field Museum. He's a hands-on philanthropist who also is active in Africa, assisting the needs of disabled children through the work of his foundation. So those are the 4 new nominees. We also have 2 board members who are renewing for another term. That's Linda Grijalva and Roger Weston. So we're going to elect our new board members and renew the existing members, all in a single slate by a show of hands. May I see all in favor? Very good. Any opposed? Okay. Congrats to our new board members, Ken, Robin, Rick, and Dave, and all of our re-elected board members. Our board's now ready to govern.
This brings the meeting to a close. I just want to thank all of you who are members here tonight and online, and donors, and our Eagle Award winners tonight. And I just want to call your attention to a few important dates that we have coming up that we mentioned. The first is Magic Under the Mangroves on March 6th, and there's still time to buy a patron table and get invited to the patron party on Key Waden Island. You can go to conservancy.org/magic. Also, the groundbreaking for John and Carol Walter Nature Experience will be again on Earth Day Festival, April 18th, here on this campus. Stay tuned on our website and social media for more updates on that. That brings this meeting to a close, but I want to remind our board members to please stay and come up to the front for a regular, very brief board meeting. Thank you all for being here tonight.